What's up, Soul Glitch here. Today I'm going to give you an overview of my pedalboard setup. I'm going to break down for you the audio signal flow as well as the Midi signal flow. Today I'm going to show you how each of these pedals plays a crucial role in my live performance and how my whole board is wired and programmed in a way that makes me take live effects into my own hands in real time while I'm performing. All right, let's get into it. All right, so first off, I've got everything on a Temple audio board. Let me just show you a Temple audio board that doesn't have anything on it. As you can see, it's got all these holes, and that allows you to, where are my plates? These holes allow you to attach these different types of plates onto the pedals that you're using. You can very easily put pedals on your board, you can move the pedals around. I'll tell you one thing, I've moved these pedals around quite a bit in between different boards. So for somebody like me that's always experimenting and moving things around, changing the setup, trying different things, these pedal boards do a really great job. You attach these plates to the bottom of the pedal. You can basically put the pedal wherever it needs to be. You use these screws to attach them from the bottom of the pedal. I'm just kind of showing you how it's done without taking any of my pedals off because I don't really want to do that right now. This video is not sponsored by Temple Audio, but you could sponsor me if you wanted to. I give them a huge endorsement because they're just, for what I do in my performance with all my pedals and all my Midi and signal flow, these things are the bee's knees. What is it, 1925? Why am I saying bee's knees? Let me show you the side of my board really quick. So as you can see on the side of this board, you can put a lot of stuff on the sides, especially with this bigger board that I have here. You got your standard pedal power input with an off and on switch, very cool. I've got a couple Midi ins right here, and then I've got 8 different 1/4 inch. This can be TS or TRS, depending on what you're doing. So this kind of stuff really helps for streamlined, for me to plug in a snake to the side, get set up on stage really fast and easy. And it has this on both sides, by the way. So if I wanted to put even more stuff, the only thing I have on this side is kind of an additional Chalks power supply that supplies more power. On the inside of the pedal, let's get to the meat. Oh wait, this is backwards. Oh, I got my finger stuck. Oh my God, it's heavy. First off, I'll explain what's going on with all the audio in the board. I've got my vocals coming in through the TC-VK. Now, if you haven't seen my vocal chain video, that's here on YouTube also. You can click above or I'll put it at the end of the video. So my wireless vocal mic over here, my vocals going through the TC-VK. It's then going through the infinite sample sustainer. From the sample sustainer, it's got a send and return that's going through this slicer pedal, then through the board brain. Then from the board brain, it can also go through the Maris pedal. We'll get to the Maris a little bit later. So after this whole mess of pedals and different routing things, it's going to the Polymoon. Then from the Polymoon delay pedal, it's going into this Radial Engineering ABY pedal. The reason that I have it going through here is one of those signals from here, after going through all that effects, is going back into my audio interface and into Ableton Live. That's the A. The B is going to a merging pedal underneath and merging with my saxophone signal, which is coming from the Harmony M. So let's get to this thing. My saxophone is going into the TC Helicon Harmony M, which allows me to do harmonies on my saxophone. Now, since this is the only thing on this board that my saxophone is going through before going back to Ableton or to the Chaos Pad, this actually has a stereo out. It has 2 different outs. One of the outputs from the Harmony M is just going straight back to Ableton Live through my audio interface. The other out is going into this little merging pedal underneath, merging with my saxophone signal and then going through the Chaos Pad, which is not turned on right now. I can't talk about the Chaos Pad when it's not listening. It has a big ego. That signal from the Chaos Pad is then going through the board brain, which actually has 4 different throughs. So, you know, like I said, one of the throughs is from the Infinite pedal. The through right here is from the Chaos Pad, and that allows me to, just like the Infinite Sustainer pedal, it allows me to put my signal from the Chaos Pad through the auto bit. So these cables basically send and return to the auto bit. Like this cable is going to the in of the auto bit. This cable is coming from the return of the auto bit. So right now the Chaos Pad's going to the auto bit. I unplug it, I plug it right here. Also looks cool on stage, you know, people think you're like, oh my God, you know what you're doing, kind of. I kind of know what I'm doing. Now the Infinite pedal is going through the auto bit. And since this board brain actually has 4 different throughs, I'm just using 2 of them right now, but at some point, if I wanted to put another instrument or a synthesizer, something like that, there's 2 more things in here that I could switch to be the signal that's being sent to the auto bit, or rather through the auto bit. So that just about does it for like what's going on audio-wise on the top of the board. Let's flip this bad boy over and let me show you what's going on underneath the pedal. Okay, now I admit, this all looks a little messy under here. So let me just explain what's going on. So this is the merging pedal right here, or better known as a summing pedal. It's basically summing the signal from my saxophone and my vocals. Then the out of this goes into the chaos pad. So obviously this is where the power comes in. This power goes through a Y splitter. One of those splits goes to this Chalk's DC7 power supply. The other one goes to this power supply that's kind of taped to the side. And that power supply powers my chaos pad. So the DC7 has obviously 7 individual power sources for your pedals. I need more than that. So I have this high 5 mod that is actually made for these Temple audio boards. So this is right on the side, and it just daisy chains to this power supply right over here. So I've got 7 plus 5 is 12. So I've got 12 individual power things. I can do math. All right, so that about does it for the power. So now that we're on the bottom of the board, let's talk about Midi. I've got a couple Midi inputs on the side here. One of those Midi inputs is coming from Ableton Live through my audio interface, and that is going first off through this quadra through. This is basically like a Midi splitter. You basically plug one Midi cable into this, and you can send Midi messages to 4 different devices. So these 4 Midi cables are going to my TC VK for my voice, my TC Harmony for my saxophone. Third one's going to the slicer. The fourth one is going to this Maris Midi hub. From here, this actually has 4 TRS outs. So from this hub, the Autobit and the Polymoon are both being supplied with Midi information. And a really cool thing about this hub, by the way, is it has a Midi out, or basically like a Midi through. So that allows me to send a Midi signal to an extra device, in this case, the chaos pad. So from this one input on the side, I'm actually delivering Midi information to 6 different pedals, since this is going to 2 of the Maris ones. Anyways, okay, so from the Midi out of the Maris, I have that going into this Midi merger along with the second input from the side of the board. Now the second input on my board is actually coming from my Roland SPD pad over here. That allows me to use these little foot switch pedals down here on the bottom to send Midi information to the chaos pad along with the Midi information coming from Ableton Live. In this case, you do need something like a Midi merge to make that possible. So the reason that I need to merge Midi signals into my chaos pad, one which is coming through Ableton, one which is coming through the SPD pad, which has my foot switch right here. The information coming from Ableton is beat syncing, so it keeps it in sync with the song, keeps it going the same tempo. That way when I'm doing loops, everything matches exactly with Ableton and everything's going on. That's the first bit of information it's receiving through Ableton, as are these other 2 pedals and the slicer pedal. They're all receiving Midi sync data from Ableton. The other thing that I have programmed in Ableton in its own Midi track is CC and patch changes. So when I'm performing, there will be different patches on the chaos pad that I want to use at different times. And having that programmed in Ableton really opens up my concentration and my focus to just perform, play saxophone, play keyboards, and trigger effects whenever I need them triggered, and not have to think about exactly what patch I'm going to. Although I do have 8 banks right here that I can choose from, and when I'm doing transitions between songs, that'll be a time where I'm choosing different patches because I'll be laying down loops, remixing those loops. The cool thing about the chaos pad is, let's say I have 3 different loops going over here. If I wanted to press Shift Sample and then change the sample length with this knob and do some different glitching and sampling, and then sample that all to one thing, you can do that at infinitum. You could literally just keep resampling with this thing. It's a lot to get into right now. I'm gonna save this for another video. The chaos pad deserves its own video, if not mini videos. Let's get over to the Autobit and the Polymoon. The Autobit is basically just receiving Midi sync information because this has timed-based stutter effects, and I do have a Midi track in Ableton that's ready to program stuff in here. But to be honest, I've really ended up just using this manually. I really just turn it off and on. I choose different stutters, and I use this down sampling to do some bit crushing, especially when I have the chaos pad running through that. I have a lot of fun with that. But other than syncing to the tempo of Ableton, I don't really do anything with programming other than that. The Polymoon, on the other hand, however, is pretty much all programmed from Ableton. There might be some words or phrases or certain parts of the songs where I want to have delay on my voice or my flute. Every once in a while, I'll turn it off and on. Sometimes stuff doesn't work right, and I have to I go to the wrong scene and I have to make sure it's turned off or it's turned on. So I can do that very easily. I don't know if you can program the slicer to do anything. I have to look into that, but it's just beat synced with Ableton. The trick with this thing is I have to press it at the exact right time, and as long as I do that, it'll stay pretty much synced to Ableton. Now, when it comes to both of these TC Helicon devices, the VK for my voice, Harmony M for my saxophone. These both have their own dedicated MIDI channels in Ableton, just like these three over here have their own dedicated MIDI channels. So with my TC-VK, where my voice is going through, I can do harmonies with this, and this has different presets that you can use. And those are all very easy to program with MIDI, and pretty much the same for the Harmony M. My sax is going through here. I basically will have Ableton trigger between A and B. The A preset is basically set to have manual harmonies. Those are coming from the MIDI track that's dedicated to this pedal that basically has MIDI notes that are sent to here, and that decides the exact harmonies that'll be played when I play saxophone. That's preset 1A. So preset 1B basically has an octave down. So whatever note I play in the saxophone, it's also playing an octave down. All right, so that pretty much does it for my pedal board deep dive. Please let me know in the comments below any of the thoughts you have. And if there's any of these particular pedals that you want me to do a deeper dive into, definitely gonna be doing some deep dives into the Chaos Pad. So hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed already. Smash that like button. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I'll see you soon.